welcome to Freebird Spirit YouTube channel. We are in a discussion here. Love is the wisdom behind awakening. And discussion 27-ish, 28-ish?
I think it is 27, yeah.
27, yeah. So welcome, everyone. And, I just want to say right up front, thank you to everyone who has been along the way with us in this discussion and keeping the discussion going in the comments and so just love this community and how we've all kind of linked in and with this awakening, with this love period. These books don't have to be right here, but they are, so oh well. All right. So today we are looking at we were understanding that we are living in a time in history, a moment in history where there are a few who are wanting us to live their narrative the way they think that we should be living. Did I get that right, Chris?
Yeah, I had a moment when you said that that's what diversity is. We throw that word around like it's attached to social groups. Diversity is when you let people live the life they want to live as opposed to the life that you think they should live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So when we talk about this republic and this sense of liberty and justice for all, freedom, the word freedom gets thrown around a lot. They don't want people to be free. They want people to be free to do what they think they should be doing. And clearly they're making some money while they do it. So yeah, so diversity and courage are part of the same package about what it means to love yourself. What it means to love yourself is to let other people live the life they want to live.
Yeah. And, really breaking it down and going a little bit deeper here is, within our own households, we recreate a narrative of how we think everybody should be living life, or at least this household. In this home, this is the way we do things. You know what I mean? And, and then you break it out a little, and then you break it into your community. So then there's a community group think, right? Or a church, if you attend a church or some sort of group like that, there's a group think there, and this is how you should think. And so you get caught in, and it creates a judgmental energy to it, and it wreaks lots of havoc because it really it can oppress you. And it makes you, it becomes judgmental. I remember when I was really little, and we had exchange students in our home every year from somewhere, wherever they came from, everywhere. But I remember hearing the adults talking well, this is how we do it here in America, or this is how we do it in our house. And it was superior to, let's say, our student who was from Greece or Germany or Brazil or wherever they were from. Our way was the better way, right? You know what I mean? And really thinking early on that was wrong. And it didn't feel good to me at all when I would hear these discussions, why would your way be the only way or the better way?
How long did you hold on to that?
Huh?
How long did you hold on to that?
hold on to it? Like
the point of view that you had, the perspective that you had about why would they think their way was the better way?
Oh, I don't know. I think it would be more like, well, I like the idea of doing things differently, or trying to bring it in a different way. I would never challenge their thing. I just felt weird about it. I was too little to. I was just hearing it at this time, but later on, offering space to learning, well, how do you do it? How do you do it in your home or in your country? And just bringing light.
Isn't that cool when people do that?
Yeah.
That's what I've always loved about teaching, is that these young people come in from all different backgrounds, and it's fairly fun to hear them talk about their differences, but not in a way of criticism or judgmental, but in a way of sharing. Oh, cool. What does your family eat for breakfast? Oh, and what does your family? It's sometimes it's that simple.
It's that
and
simple.
Sometimes much more complex.
But it is that
is
simple. It is that, because everybody has their own ways of doing things, down to the single person. Not even, you have your household, then you have the 6 people who live in your house, and each person has their own quirks or their own ways of doing things, even within that. And it just always, when you go into people's homes and being aware of this is how they do it in their home, and I don't know, it's an awareness of why this is a challenge at a larger scale, to want to control the narratives of things, and do my way is the better way. Well, why? And
I think the why is the most important part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The why really is the most important part. We were talking earlier about the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, right?
The Triangle
Shirtwaist Fire.
The Triangle Shirtwaist Fire. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what year that was. It was in the 30s in New York City, where there was basically a sweatshop, sewers, and the owners locked all the doors to hold the women in there, and the place caught fire and they couldn't get them out. So, the horrible images we have of 9/11, of people jumping out of a burning building, all these women were jumping out the windows. They tried to hold up stretchers for them to land in, but they were too high up and they would crash through the stretchers. It was a horrific sight. But the issue of control is what's in there. I had a student who was from Guatemala a few years ago, and they had children working in a sewing shop like that, and they locked the doors again, and the kids were killed. And she was in class when she was finding out about that. It is about control. It's like control. When you say we've got to change how we control the narrative, or what the narrative is. It's what's the narrative that's running in our minds when we say we have to control other people.
Right.
And I think it gets turned into, well, they're the ones that are bad, when it's really us.
Yeah.
That's not okay with who we are. So,
interesting.
Is it?
It is interesting. I was just thinking of Frances Perkins, sorry. And her story that she was bringing in. And can you tell us a little bit about, if you can tell us a little bit about her.
What I remember, not because I was there, because I read about her, but was that, yes, she would have been my parents' age. But yeah, she was the first female Secretary of Labor, but the first woman to sit on a president's cabinet. And she was raised in New England, I think, Maine, and went to school in Massachusetts. Tongue's not working. And she was part of that cabinet when the Shirtwaist Fire happened, and she went to bat for poor people who were being treated badly and fought for the rights of people at the hands of their employers. And she held her own as the only woman in an all-male government and cabinet, and made a whole lot of changes and did a whole lot of progressive stuff. I mean, we've got a lot of these people. We've got a lot of these women.
Mm-hmm. But she had to what I'm hearing here is she had to overcome some of these narratives within her household. And I think you shared one in regards to she came from a home of privilege and money. Mm-hmm. And so when she first went to school, she became aware of people who were poor and didn't have. And her father told her, well, what was her question to her dad and her?
Why are some people poor? And he said it was because of alcoholism and laziness.
Yeah. And now, and so what she said to me in regards to that, and everybody's like, what do you mean you're talking? Yeah. Okay. So she's here with us. And, but what she brought in with that was that she's saying that she felt that was wrong. But she also understood, kind of respecting and honoring your parents or whatever. But I do feel that what she's saying is she didn't believe that narrative. It was clear to her that was wrong, because what she saw and witnessed was hardworking people who were still poor. They're working really, really hard and still very, very poor. Yeah. And what she's saying to me was she saw that as very simple, that was like slavery. And so there was a big component of wanting to make this change that so there was underlining things here. She's saying that she felt that she wanted to be part of making change and bringing more rights to people in the workplace and like that. But that early age of first going to school and that happening, she didn't believe him when he said that to her. But that's how he tried to control the narrative. And I feel like she wants us to really take a look at belief systems that are like that we all have, we personally have. Why this or why that? Why is that person, the homeless, for instance? She just said the homeless. Look at your homeless. Mm-hmm. And the narrative around the homeless. When you see a homeless person, or I'm sure there's other word, people are using more politically correct words for that, I guess, these days.
What's the other word? Unhoused.
The unhoused.
Yes, what you say there, the campers.
The campers, I call them campers, the unhoused, the unhoused folks. And what is your initial response? Let's say you're walking down the street and you come across a bunch of unhoused people. And so what is your response? What do you think? What comes in your mind at those moments? And it's okay. I mean, it's okay. No judgment, no judgment. It's just being aware. There's no judgment being brought here, but we have certain thoughts. so me personally, some of my personal challenges, well, when I worked in the emergency room and psychiatric in regular hospitals and worked in psychiatric hospitals, we worked a lot with the unhoused population, and their stories were at our doorstep all the time, and their lives, and if I would sit down and spend time and have a conversation, a real deep conversation, I had a unique opportunity to do that when they're in your bed in the ER, right? To find out their stories and their paths, because it's easy to put them in that thought, well, they're this or they're that, or they're drug addicts, they're alcoholics, they're, and kind of putting them out in those types of narratives. And I forgot where I was going with all this, Chris.
I didn't forget. Okay. This is, it's really, these pieces are all connected. The piece about what she's saying about belief systems, what you said all along about narratives, what's also coming out is about the need to control others,
right?
And judgment, right?
Judgment. That's right. Judgment. So check your judgment.
And judgments to control people, and that we are participating in it. It's like, remember I said to you, love is the wisdom behind the awakening, that we've created this world. We've created these perspectives. So when we become, when I said to you, where do you find the courage to break out of those stories, the stories we get growing up that we don't agree with, where do you get the courage to leave that story behind, right?
And we've all done it. The family here, everybody's listening, we've all had moments in our lives where we had to leave behind some of those stories that just didn't fit us. Yeah.
I've said mine many times about growing up with a mother who was the youngest of an evangelical Christian family, of that old style Christian stuff, and saw all the damage from that, and was told that there were certain things, certain people you couldn't love, which was, I always struggled there. It's like, wait a minute, you're saying Jesus is love, but I can only love certain people? Only love a certain way? I'm only, of course, for me as a kid, it was like, how come I have to love guys only? Didn't make sense. And then my grandfather, who was the minister, is like, yeah, well, you don't love Catholics because they're not nice. It's like, what?
Oh,
so those are the ways in which those belief systems become judgments of other. It's no wonder that we have trouble with diversity.
Yes, no wonder. And Frances is showing me here, those type of beliefs are literally like wearing a ball and chain to you. And so there's people walking around with, she's showing me, with lots of balls and chains, and there's some with less. But yeah, who wants to carry that stuff around? Check your ball and chain. See what you're still carrying. Yeah. Take inventory. And again, there's no judgment here, and you don't have to judge yourself. It's just kind of what you've been shown.
Well, I think the process to love yourself means being able to let go of the stories that keep you thinking you're loving yourself when you're not. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's I mean, to love yourself is to know that you're in a world full of hearts, right?
A world full of hearts.
Full of hearts, where what people choose to do is their work, not your work. I can decide that my work is to be a legislator in Tennessee and to do the work of taking care of my constituents. And if one of my constituents decides to wear the cloth of somebody else, it's just cloth.
It's just cloth.
Cloth of somebody else. They're still my constituent, and I'm still using my heart to do the work. But maybe they're not. Maybe I have constituents who aren't, and that's their work to figure out how to do that. Not my work to judge them.
Right. And here's a question for you. Speaking of the heart space and really what that is and what that means, can you describe that for us, this heart space of ours?
Yeah, the science has long said that we carry around an energy field around us. That is, they used to say about 6 to 8 feet. They called it the torus, and it's sort of like a bell shape, but it was around. It emanates from the heart. The recent science shows that, in fact, that's not limited to 6 to 8 feet. It's infinite.
It's infinite.
In other words, the whole quantum field that we're part of is infinite. You and I've talked about this before about, how did your voice get to my phone without a wire? But better yet, how is it that when I have a thought about you, I suddenly get a text from you? Right. Or somebody I know I'm just thinking about and they call me right in that moment. How does that happen? There's no such thing as an accident. So, it's like, okay, that's the electromagnetic field. That's the energy field. Yeah.
And that's how you connect in with your abilities of listening and connecting into others. If you are doing this type of, if I'm connecting into you and bringing messages, you're coming from that space. You're using all your other abilities, your third eye to see and hear, and your crown chakra to. But this is how you are connecting in. And when you're doing, and I look at my cat over there, but when you're communicating, doing animal communication, this is where, that's how you connect in, is this space. And so I find it so fascinating that they did this work, and scientifically it's been shown. So that is so beautiful, so cool. Yeah. And I hope that everybody hears that and is now just starts being aware that you are literally connected to one another. We are all connected that way.
Yeah.
And we can literally communicate.
Yeah. That's the hard work, because that means you're also connected to the people who have made other people's lives.
Exactly. And so I want to talk about that. So they also are, it's not like they don't have that as well. And so they're putting they're also connected to the highway is what I'm saying. People who may be carrying a lot of those balls and chains. And I don't know. And again, it affects the whole, right? I don't know.
Is Frances still here?
Yeah.
Or should I say Secretary Perkins?
Secretary Perkins.
Does she have any advice for how we deal with these political men and what they're trying to do?
Okay, so they can't see what is not in their viewfinder. so when you're working with tough energy or a tough situation where you're wanting them to see a larger picture here, or outside their narrative that they are living in. It's important for you to understand. And she's saying, for myself, when I was working in that cabinet thing, she's saying she understood that she was dealing with a limited viewpoint, like a limited viewpoint. And working within that limited viewpoint, you are putting down breadcrumbs, she's saying. So you put down breadcrumbs for them to pick up a little at a time to the aha. And so that's kind of how she dealt with it there. And she's also showing Ruth as well, that Ruth used some of this same type of concept of a little bit at a time. Ruth had an understanding that you try to bring an enlightened concept into someone who can only see right here, it will never move, right? So you have to do a little breadcrumb at a time. So they grasp that breadcrumb. And even though Frances is saying, even though I am seeing this viewpoint, I'm trying to get them to hear, to release this old narrative and be able to see here. She would leave the breadcrumbs. We'll do one, they'd grasp this concept a little more, and then all of a sudden they would be able to see this. And she said it was just, it could be obviously frustrating at times, but she understood that they could only see right here. And so getting here, it was so beautiful to see this blossom when they got here, and to see the layers come off their eyes and step into. So she said, it is possible. She's showing me one man.
An example.
Yeah, she's showing me one man in particular right now that was exceedingly difficult. And like what you would consider a lost cause. And that over time, a little concept at a time, even he was able to pull off some of the layers, not like big, but enough to move out of some of the rigid narrative that was in place at the time. Literally, this man, she's saying, and I wish I knew, I'll try to see if I can get a name. Literally, this man felt that children and women were not human, like not part of the, they were basically dogs. This is how he felt. So that was his rigid space. And so for when you're trying to bring in human rights in work or work conditions, or in just simple human rights, he was quite a contender to work with. So yeah, she said that was her hardest person.
What's an example of what can she tell us what an example of a breadcrumb is?
Okay, so like a breadcrumb, so that would be just in general, kind of opening one little door of, so instead of saying full equal rights for women in the workplace, same pay, same good, beautiful working conditions, a bathroom in the building, like that, any of those things. If you put that on the table, it would be immediately crushed because they're such rigid viewpoints. So you would start with bringing, for example, if you were talking about conditions in a factory for women, she would make a woman human. So you have to start small, like even just this is a human being, you know what I mean? Like, so it was just like literally starting small steps. So each breadcrumb was, okay, so now we have a human being working here. And this human being, so the next breadcrumb would be in the winter is freezing in the factory. It's freezing. And it is in the human condition can't take that cold and use their hands at the same time. And, so literally, she said it was like crawling, and a lot of patience, but each breadcrumb was something more, something more, something more, something more. And then, oh, wow. Like, and the shades come off. And she said that, when that happened, it was magnificent.
So when these politicians decide they're not going to provide free lunches for children,
yeah,
we have to find a way to say hungry children are what? Unproductive, dangerous. We have to sort of say what the consequence is of not feeding them.
Correct.
That will strike at the narrative that the person making the decision is holding on to.
So she said this is a little different. She said the situation that you're dealing with here in regards to what is happening with not feeding the children at school, taking the lunch, the breakfast and lunch money, taking care of the kids at school. She said that's a different situation in that that is coming from a space of greed and purposed oppression. They have the difference being is you have more enlightened people purposely taking away something from a group of people to oppress them more. They know what they're doing. And she said that is more dangerous than a man who has short vision, who is not awakened yet.
Yeah.
And she said, so that's much different.
Does she have any advice for how to shift them?
Expose them. Expose the underbelly, she said.
Yeah. I think we talked about this last time too, about holding them accountable. Yes, we did talk about it. Yeah, we talked about it twice, about focusing on the dominant, not on the oppressed. What are these people gaining? What are they doing? Who are they? What's driving them? To get a sense of accountability about them.
She says exactly. Yeah. She says greed never wins. It's hard to watch this process while you're here on the planet, living through it. She said, greed never wins. People are hurt along the way, but greed will never win. They will be taken down.
We can only hope.
It's living through it, the hard part, watching it.
So that's like her father's narrative about the poor. About the piece about how do we change those narratives? Yeah, I'm thinking about Ronald Reagan's whole invention of the welfare queen, which is still around. It's still here, and what she's pointing out is that her father's position is not really different from what Ronald Reagan brought out. So it's been here for a long time. This whole notion, and I think it comes from the sort of Puritan religion stuff. The whole notion of you don't work hard, there's a reason you don't have money because you're not working hard enough. And that has sort of persisted over the generations. So one of the challenges is to change some of these belief systems.
And I don't know about. I'm sure a lot of the family can identify, but some of the hardest jobs I've worked at were the most low-paying job, but you work so hard and you're exhausted and you just like can't even make it to the end of the week barely, and you're just exhausted. Hard work. And you can't get ahead. You just can't get ahead, and you can't even make it. It's like you have to have 10 roommates to live, and like it just, the system is not set up correctly. It's literally to keep people enslaved.
Yes.
And so she said, she's still pointing at the underbelly. She's like, it needs to be exposed. This needs to come to the surface. I do feel like what she's saying here is we're seeing this, we're experiencing it, we're acknowledging it. So the energies are all coming to the surface, and it will be shown, but it's like a pressure cooker. And it's not comfortable. But it will be exposed and shifted in time. She said in time, but
yeah, the time issue is a big one, right?
She said each generation passes, it's a new way to feed the greed. New ways of feeding the greed. And there comes a point where it topples. She's bringing me to a story in the Bible. And it's in regards to building as high. What's that? Building, like everybody, like they were building something as high as they could. I kind of remember the story she's trying to share, but anyways, it topples. So anytime you put all your energy into like greed and building this fine, I want to be richer, it will topple. What is that story she's trying to tell me, and I can't get it. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a student of the Bible, so I can't help you.
I should know this. I have a minor in Bible.
Well said.
Well said, right?
Yeah.
What is that? I know it'll come to me as soon as I'm not in this.
What's a love is the wisdom behind awakening.
Mm-hmm.
What are we awakening
to? That we are all that you're awakening, you're remembering that you all are, that everyone is connected, and yeah, it is human nature to be us and them. Instead of the we and the connected.
Mm-hmm.
And really, as you step into the more awakening, you realize you're coming into the remembering the connection, that we are all, I am you, you are me, connection. Once you are in that space, once you are in that awakening, it's no longer the judgment is dropped. Judgments are dropped. Things flow freely. There's no one is in need. You wouldn't have the poor of poor and the rich of rich. It would be ebb and flowing. So the more as more people coming into the consciousness, it the everything, the ebb and flow of abundance will follow suit. The rich won't be the top 1% won't be, there won't be the top one. It will be more of an ebb and flow. And you're here at a time where you're breaking through the ice, like you're breaking through this membrane. It's just the beginning. You're one of the you'll be remembered as one of the ones that were ushering in the collective remembering, and to bring that collective conscious in, to bring the ebb and flow where you have the balanced, more balanced experience here. And remember, this is one of a great school. It's one of the hardest schools to come to. And so, and as your time moves on and generations pass, there'll be different types of challenges, but you're always moving towards this awakening, this collective conscious understanding and remembering. And each generation brings in more of an awareness of this. Yeah. But there, you come here to experience and do this work. So yeah.
So accept it.
Never accept it. Never accept where you're always wake up wanting to learn and question still water. Question water that doesn't have any movement in it. Always question. She's showing me like a pond, and do you drink that water? You got to question that, because you're looking around. Is there any in or out of this water? How long has it been sitting here? Is it stuck? Always question stuck water, still water. That's a new one for me. So hopefully you understand what she's saying.
It's a new metaphor.
Yeah, new metaphor. She says it's been a pleasure to hang out with us today. And she would like to be invited. She'd like to be invited back if we ever want to.
I think we can have a panel.
We'll have a panel. That'll be cool.
I think we should have a panel. Frances and Eleanor and Wilma.
Ooh.
We can
and Ruth.
We can invite them. Bell Hooks and Audrey Lord, and we could all have them come in and have a conversation.
Gang. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Watch your brain fry.
Watch my brain fry. Watch me just totally step aside.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
We'll be putting out a fishing line saying, "Back, Debbie.
Come on,
bring it back."
Anyway, so well, thank you, Frances, for coming in. I appreciate. I'll have to listen back to what was all said, but so Chris, I'm going to hand it to you to kind of close us out today, because I have no idea where to go.
Oh, great. Yeah. I'm so appreciative of the lessons that these folks have been giving us, and the way in which, our theme about love is the wisdom behind awakening. What constitutes awakening is really complex and yet very simple.
Yeah.
The piece I think that was very helpful was thinking about those moments when we're not loving ourselves is when we're trying to control others.
Ooh, I like that.
We're not in our hearts in those moments. We're trying to manage them, trying to sit in judgment of them, and not accepting their difference from us.
Yes.
And their diversity, and that the diversity that we talk about and we throw around all the time. I just heard it last night from a friend who stopped in, who was complaining about the DEI police, the diverse equity and inclusion police. And I thought, we've turned that into something that's policing. It seems like we've lost the mission, right? Yeah. So I think reframing this whole notion of diversity is much more than one's sexuality or ethnicity or race or whatever, into that all. I'm going to go back to the old phrase: nature is highly variable, which means that nature is diverse.
Yes,
all nature is
all
diverse.
Nature. We're all, yeah.
All nature is diverse, and we're part of nature. Yeah. Maybe next time we'll talk to Rachel Carson.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for hanging out with us today in our discussion, and we look forward to your comments and continuing this discussion further. So until next time, blessings to you all, and we will see you later.
Peace out.